Welcome to the Real Estate Show. From buying to selling and everything in between. Rochester's home for everything real estate. And now, your hosts from the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. It's Anthony Butera and Jason Mancuso.
Hello, welcome to the Real Estate Show. We are at episode 22 of the Real Estate Show. Got Jason Mancuso, Anthony Butera here. We're going to do a Q&A show, questions and answers, which we take all the time on the Facebook. You can, Facebook message us, comment below, and then we'll try to address those.
Email. Let us know what you want answered. We'll address
it. You guys threw my game off. I didn't think that's what Q&A.
That's something way different.
Either way, we'll do this. It's fine.
Well, I got a question. What's the concoction, or is it just water?
This?
Yeah.
So it's just it's actually like a green tea, just a drink packet to put in there for some energy. You find it 3 hours a night. Sometimes it just doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
So just a little boost so I can keep myself awake.
It's working, man.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah. Well, I was taking speaking of like those packets thing, I was taking the kids for a walk in my parents' neighborhood, and we happened upon a lemonade stand, like kids doing the lemonade stand thing.
Yeah.
The cheap bastards, all they were doing, they had Aquafina water, and they were giving me lemonade packets. And then they were making us mix them.
Well.
They separate for $1.
All right.
Aquafina water and then a lemonade packet, and they gave it to us, and I had to mix it for everybody. Like, at least mix it for me, right?
That's like the new generation. It's entrepreneurship, but it's like to the laziest extent.
Well, maybe it's like they don't want to be sued because it's like giving people E. coli like Chipotle or something.
Yeah, don't come after me.
No, their dad's probably an attorney or something, so this is the way you got to do it. I like it. Practical. I mean, I don't want the little cup, For
well, now that I'm thinking about it.
You got a bottle, cap and everything. You take it with you and use it
at
for
least
the rest
make
of the day.
it, man. At least shake it up
but
for me.
I think that's good legal practice right there. Those kids are onto something.
Well, how do they make it a profit, though? 50 cents for a bottle of Aquafina water? That stuff's expensive.
Was it actual Aquafina?
Yeah, this wasn't Wegmans brand.
Probably buying the Sam's case of water.
Okay.
Right? Or not Sam's in here anymore.
Yeah.
The BJ's
and
one, right?
Changing out the labels, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now they're gonna get sued. Now they're gonna get sued.
This is a very profitable criminal enterprise you guys have created here in your.
All right. Well, same topic. I mean, did you hear about? I think it was Florida. The lady who blew the little kid in that was selling water outside of a apartment complex.
Oh, no, it was
without
California.
A permit. Was it California?
It was California.
Without a permit. So there's a little kid doing the same thing,
selling bottled water.
Or bottled water. And I guess there was, I didn't see it, but I guess there was like video of her like hiding behind the wall.
Yeah, this is
and calling the town and blowing her in.
There's 8 videos of this where just different situations where it's always like black people hanging out at a park. And then some like 40-year-old white lady calling the cops on them. Right. And then the cops just being like, what?
Right.
They're just hanging out,
just
lady.
At the park.
And it was like a little black girl, and she lived at that apartment complex, and she was selling bottled water. And it was like a 40-year-old white lady calling the cops, and it's just like, what are you doing? And
what charges would you like us
right.
What's the issue? No, she got him. I think they had to shut her down, though, right?
What is it, go inside?
Didn't have a permit to sell water.
Well, then people are looking into it.
This is the freaking world that we live in.
The lady that called the cops, people looked into it. I know this story. The lady that called the cops, people looked into it. She sells pot brownies and cookies for your dogs. And
for the dogs?
For dogs. And humans. But her main thing was dogs, and she didn't have any permits either.
Oh, no.
She doesn't have any permits selling pot, and she's blowing in the girl with the water.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on pot brownies for dogs.
I mean,
why would you do that to your dog?
To settle him down.
Yeah, but that's gotta.
Yeah, but these dogs, like these
make
little,
them paranoid.
These dogs are like high anxiety, like especially like the toy-sized dogs. They're
but what happens when they come out of it?
Come out of what?
The hive.
You give them another cookie.
Wait a second.
And then they're just hooked. It's like
doesn't chocolate like kill these dogs?
True. Might be. Maybe
they're not chocolate.
It's a peanut butter.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha. All right, yeah, I was going down that path.
I feel like that's the equivalent of the old, back in the '60s or whatever, given the LSD experiment.
What was it?
Like you just hopping somebody up on acid to see what the results are. I feel like you're giving that to a dog.
Yeah, but people do that already for their dogs. Like there's pills, like there's anxiety pills for dogs. Whether there's like a thunder lightning storm, or if there's or if it's 4th of July and there's fireworks, or if there's rain. Dude, you have a dog.
I don't know. I just feel like our grandfathers are rolling over in their.
Yeah, but you have a dog. You don't.
The beach in Normandy.
I'm pretty sure my grandpa smoked pot.
My damn dog needs a pop around to settle down.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
I am total old man. Get off my lawn, guy. Stop. Where's your permit for selling lemonade?
I haven't seen my lawn.
Too much traffic.
It's too
much traffic on the street. Where's your permit?
But the woman that ratted him out, that had the dog brownie
dispensary or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, partner up. These dogs got cotton mouth.
That's true,
Get the water going.
Some water
opportunity. Yeah.
I see opportunity.
Missing a business opportunity. Right
Narrow-minded.
There.
This is crazy. I feel like I'm done with the show. I'm good.
It's episode 22. So
it was a wrap.
All right. Well, I got a few questions that people sent in. Again, you can go to our Facebook and direct message us or leave a comment.
Keep sending
them in. We got Catherine out of Gates. She is she's selling her home, buying a new home. Wants to know how to properly time that out. So you're not homeless for a couple of months because. You got to time out.
It's definitely a logistical, there's layers to it, right? It's not it happens all the time, so it's not like it's impossible and it's going to be a nightmare. But it's definitely something you have to have organized. You can't really just wing it. I mean, just this week we had an instance with a listing that was ready to go to sell, and we had to kind of push the pause button just to make sure, okay, well, there was a little bit of a hiccup or a delay in their plans to buy or plans to figure out where they're going next. So for us as realtors to properly represent, have the best interest, the goal isn't just, all right, let's get it for sale sign in this yard and sell it as quick as possible for our own benefit. And then they're left with a shitstorm, 30 days later when they realize I got nowhere to go, and then the deal dies and the buyer backs out, and, it can be a mess. So I think it's, as the homeowner / potential buyer, I mean, you really have to have all cards out on the table with the person that you're working with as a realtor, as a loan officer, as an attorney, so that everybody's aware of the situation and what the best interests for you are, so that we can then game plan around that. I guess the short answer to the question would be really, there's a different game plan for every situation. But there has to be a game plan. This is not a situation where you can just wing it.
Yeah.
And there's multiple different layers of the onion that we can peel off from that conversation from there. But
sure, whether you're about to work with a buyer, or they're going to present themselves as a seller first, right? You got to sell their house. It's more important to actually get your seller pre-qualified than your buyer, because I hear these stories over and over of my seller, you put the client's house up on the market and somebody brings a buyer to the table, they're under contract, and now it's time for the sellers to go and find their house, and they're not pre-qualified, they can't get a mortgage. They can't leave their house.
Yeah.
And that's on the agent.
Right. Really is, yeah.
You can't get that deep into a I mean, you're selling a house that's really not even for sale. You don't know it yet because you didn't do your due diligence. But one of my first questions when I sit down with sellers is, all right, so I mean, we're sitting in point A right now. What's point B look like if I sold your house today? And here's what we got to do, and here's what we got to figure out. And it always comes up, what would the next house look like for you guys? What are you looking to spend? And have you been pre-qualified? And if you haven't, you got to get that information up front, because now, these agents, and it does happen more often than you would think,
right, yeah.
These agents just invested a ton of time. The buyers and the buyer's agent have invested a ton of time and money. you're setting yourself up for a lawsuit because these buyers have paid for an appraisal, they've paid for a home inspection. Yep. They put a good faith deposit. There's damages.
Yeah, there's
that are done.
A couple thousand on the line potentially that could just all go away because you didn't have yourself organized.
I remember it happened to me like 4 years ago. I was still newer in the business, and it happened to be a friend of mine that I was working with, representing him as a buyer, and we were past mortgage commitment. We literally, we fulfilled all of our contractual obligations. All of our contingencies were met. And turns out the seller, the deal died on her purchase because of her lender. They didn't dig deep enough, and they did an employment verification, and this is like finish line at this point. The last thing the lender will do when you're purchasing a home is they'll do an employment verification to make sure you're still at that job that pre-qualified you. And if you're not, that loan will die. So the woman basically, I got a call from the agent, and the agent said, hey, listen, this deal's going to die. My seller, she wasn't approved for her mortgage. I go, well, that's unfortunate for her. I feel horrible. We're closing on this house. So start looking for apartments for your seller because she cannot get out of this contract at this point. Now, can you physically grab somebody and drag them out of their house? No. But the damages that they're lining themselves up for, from a legal standpoint, believe me, your best interest is to get out of that house. Blame it on your agent or blame it on whoever, but you do have to get your ducks in a row. So it sounds like I think it was Lori or whatever the consumer's name was. Catherine, I'm sorry. So it sounds like Catherine already has her house on the market, and she's looking at how do we coordinate this? What we have been doing, because we're in the market that we are in right now, is we've been utilizing bridge loans quite a bit. Our go-to loan officer, she does them very, very well. And the nice part about the bridge loan is it allows you to they'll allow you to borrow up to 80% of the equity in your existing home to qualify to go non-contingent on the next home, if that equity would assist you in qualifying. Now, with that said...
So pretty much gives you cash on hand to put a down payment.
Correct.
Essentially, you're sucking out the equity that you have in the home ahead of time, ahead of closing, without having it closed.
Right. And you actually don't owe... you don't start your mortgage payments on your new home until your existing home has closed. So it's not like you're paying double, but there are some upfront fees. There's like an upfront 1.5.
Yeah.
So if it were $100,000, you're talking $1,500 to utilize the product. But what I always tell the sellers, which changes their mindset, because when you first start those conversations of, I'm not going to pay money to borrow money.
Right.
Well, that's what the lending industry started.
Well,
That's the foundation of
pretty much how it works.
Of lending. Yeah.
Sorry, nothing's free.
Yeah, if you find an interest-free loan, please let me know.
Well, there's an expense, but it's just a matter of getting from point A to point B, whereas you may not get there without this potential.
Correct. So, and I always say, listen, if it costs you $3,000 to borrow this money, this is giving you the ability to purchase something non-contingent as opposed to contingent.
Okay.
And if you don't think that it's going to cost you more than $3,000 for that seller to accept your contingent offer, which is essentially a non-offer,
right,
believe me, you're saving money by doing that.
So non-contingent is like, I can just buy this house. I don't have to
without selling my existing home.
Really,
okay. And that helps when going in. And
well, essentially, you're the buyer, the seller of that home doesn't even need to know that you own a home. It doesn't. Your situation on the back end of it doesn't matter to them.
Correct.
And that's in this market, that's the strong, or any market really, it's the strongest offer you can present. And aside from having just a bag full of cash, but
correct. And in this market, to get a contingent offer accepted is
tough.
Very difficult. The only times I see it happen is if there's been a listing that's been out there lingering for like 30 plus days, right, where either they overpriced it or it's a unique house, which is going to require a unique buyer. Although they're open to accepting a contingent offer, there's no sold sign that goes up. Right. They still market that property as if there's no offer on the table at all, because there really isn't, because there's a connecting house that has to sell. So until that other house sells and gets past their processes, their buyer's inspection, their buyer's mortgage commitment, it's a risky deal.
Sure.
So if you could pay to go non-contingent, you could obtain that home non-contingent for a lot less than paying the $3,000, and you don't owe that money. Just to make it clear, it's not like you're cutting a check up front to borrow it. You don't owe that money until you actually close on your existing property. So it's another opportunity where you're not coming out of pocket, you're coming out of equity when you close on the property. So again, you don't have to have much skin in the game, but what it does is it frees you up, because it's a seller's market. It's a competitive market out there. If there's a multiple offer situation, a contingent offer is not even, it's glanced at. It's not thoroughly thought about. Even if you were $10,000 more than another offer, I'm taking the offer that is going to be able to close.
Yeah, it's not always about price. It's terms.
Correct.
Terms have a ton of value.
Yeah.
To kind of wrap up that topic, I mean, it's on us as the agents. We're kind of the one-stop shop, for the whole real estate process. Yes, there's loan officers, lenders that have a huge part of it, attorneys that have a huge part of it, but it's on us to really coordinate things and get things going smooth from the start. And if we're not asking the right questions at that initial phase of things, then it just ends up being there's agents that are self-serving and just want to get a commission check at the end of the day, and they're not handling it the right way. And I just sold this house in a week, and okay.
Yep.
You end up, it's like, okay, you find an apartment, you're going to buy a house, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's like, well, you got to figure that out first.
Yeah, and we really...
Because sellers don't necessarily think about it either. A lot of times people get caught up, oh my God, hot market, look at how much the price has gone up. I can sell my house for more than what than I ever could. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what's the next, what's like you said, point B.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, and we, it's just, for us, it's, there's asking questions, and then there's just exhausting questions. And I really like my loan officer. She will, that I primarily work with. I mean, she'll say it. I mean, I am a absolute pest, and I'm a pest. They're really not my personal buyers, but whether it's anyone in my company or on my personal team, I will go and ask those questions, because a lot of times the loan officers aren't getting as creative as you could get. And then, I'm really big on saying, all right, well, what if they did this? They're still not qualified to go non-contingent. All right, but what if we tried this? Or what if we got a temporary gift from a family member that were to be paid back, or a promissory note that were to be paid back after the other house? Yeah, you could do that. I said, okay, well, let's do that. Let's find that person. Right. Let's find that family member that would be willing to give you a short-term loan, and let's put them on the mortgage.
It really boils down to getting every single detail out of the way at the start, not just rushing to get a listing on the market and sell it, and then you're left with you just end, as an agent, you're just going to end up with a bad experience, a bad review, no referrals after the fact. You look like an idiot.
Yeah.
And it's just not good. So.
I always say it that it is so much better, and this is for agents, it is so much better for you and your business and your ability to make it in this real estate world to have your uncomfortable conversations at the beginning of your relationship instead of the end.
Sure.
When you have them in the beginning, by the end, they realize that those uncomfortable questions were the intention was to put them in the best place, and they realize it when they close, that the stuff that you were doing, that maybe you came off as the salesperson instead of the relationship person, they'll realize the huge favor that we did for them. Right. Get your bold, fierce conversations out of the way at the beginning, and you'll be thanked in the end. When you have to backpedal when it's getting close to closing, your ability to retain that client for another transaction, your career is gone.
Yeah, you're screwed.
So it's the fear of having those conversations that a lot of agents don't want to have. But you may not like me today or what I'm telling you. you're going to thank me when you close on this property. That's, we'd rather go down that path. So it's having the confidence in those conversations, and confidence is obtained with information. So obtain that information. It's, I tell agents new and that have been in the business, it's so important that we know the financial products that are out there as much as we know, our market.
Yeah. So again, one-stop shopping. So.
But yeah, we beat the hell out of that question.
You're welcome, Catherine.
Let's do one more here. We got a few minutes. Other than schools, what should I be looking for in an area when buying a home? Or is it mostly schools?
Well, I think it depends on what the priorities, right? I mean, if you're single, no kids, or a couple, older couple, no kids, or kids are out of the nest, so to speak, then schools really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just met with somebody this week who said, one of the priorities is street with sidewalks. It all depends. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that. It all boils down to personal preference.
Ton of rollerblading.
Yeah.
Just for the sidewalks. I wonder, how much do you hear about people wanting to be near Wegmans?
It comes
that's
up.
Still a thing. I feel like that's
it comes up. How far are we from Wegmans? Definitely comes up. I remember, when I was more active working with primarily buyers, I remember pulling in and then plugging into my GPS from that house. You type in, just search on the GPS Wegmans, and it'll say, okay, 6.8 miles.
Sure.
Well, one of the priorities for me when I was looking for my last home was proximity to an expressway, just so that I can get on and zip around town from there. Mm-hmm. So I think everybody's different. That could be one. Just logistics, getting to work. Whether we deal with it all the time as far as like having a property on a main road that's busy, and that it may be a fit for one buyer that we're working with, but we're advising them if they're interested in that property. Hey, when you go to sell, this could be an issue because you may be eliminating the families that may be interested in this home and they don't want to live there now because they don't want Johnny running out in the street.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different factors. I think everybody's different. There's not one set answer to that.
I think it's their situation, right? Everybody's situation is different. If like you're empty nesters, those conversations are typically like, all right, we don't want any neighbors.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
The kids are out of the house.
They're sick of people.
We're done. Yeah. We want some privacy. Then we get the younger couples that were selling their first home, and if their first home was like in a private area or on a main road, now you will find that they will actually take like a lesser of a home, but in a track with young families.
Sure.
So their kids can.
I find you kind of want, whenever I move, you want the opposite of what you had.
Yeah.
Like me and my wife lived in the city. Just like people on top of us, like an orgy neighborhood, and we moved out to the sticks. Like, okay, we're done looking at people.
Yeah. Well, one thing to talk about is like as far as what you're looking for as a buyer, there's not always a way for us to set up a search that's gonna like totally narrow down a very specific criteria. Example being like the main road, or I want a wooded lot. We can't narrow that down, so there's a part of it that's just like, all right, we're going to have to pick and choose what comes up on the market. The point of having a search set up is just so that you can see all the options when they come, so that it's real-time information and you're not missing out on anything.
Yeah, you're going to have to click through. I'd rather give you more I'd rather give you more inventory. I'd rather you click past it very quick to notice it doesn't work than restrict something, because when searches are set up, we're depending that the agent on the other end inputted their information correctly.
Right.
So I'd rather have 87 results than 5 results, because you're looking for a home that is on waterfront, and you're looking for a home, let's just say specifically like backed up to the canal. Like if we inputted type of, is it waterfront? Yes. Type of waterfront. If we highlighted canal, I'll guarantee you there's probably 10 houses we're going to miss, because that agent didn't get deep enough into their data where it, to syndicate to that search.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not like an exact science, and everybody's on the same page. So.
Yeah. But I think it's situational based. It's interesting what people's desires are, and you want to establish those right up front, because a relationship could go sour with your clients if you keep sending them stuff that makes no sense to them without explaining why they're seeing some stuff that may not make sense to them.
Sure.
This is why we have to do it this way. Don't take offense to it, because I don't want you guys to feel like we haven't listened to your needs. We have, but again, I'd rather you just put a thumb down to at least know that we sent you the inventory that's out there, because I don't want you to miss out on anything that may have been inputted the wrong way from another agent that's out there.
Exactly.
So it's just, again, it's having those conversations.
Yeah. Give us one more rapid fire.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
One sentence or less.
Grab one more.
Think we can even do this? 3 words
you
or
got
less.
this.
F, marry, kill.
All right. What's a better investment, new build or buying an existing home?
Neither.
Neither. Go. All right. Next.
Yeah.
Housing's not.
Depends.
Housing's the worst investment.
Okay. What a car?
Housing's the worst investment, but unfortunately we need shelter. Okay.
Sure.
So with that being said, new construction versus existing, it really has to. It depends how long you're going to stay in the house. If you think it's going to be a 5 to 7 year house, you're going to want to go existing.
Yeah.
If you're thinking 15, 20 years, bring new build into your criteria. I'm not saying to just focus on it, but with new construction, it's a little bit different. It's not the same as I'm going to wait. I'm not going to buy that Jaguar today. I'm going to buy it in 2 years when that sucker turns it in, and
Yeah.
I'm going to get like $50,000 off of that car. You know what I mean? It's not to that extent, but
Right.
don't. I think now more than ever, don't discount the likelihood of you wanting to go the new construction route, because what we've seen is the existing home market has now surpassed not the value, but the I would say the incline of temporary values. New construction kind of goes up every year as opposed to existing, but with the market we're currently in, the existing home market has increased in value way faster than new construction has the last few years, where it's typically the opposite.
Yeah, it's supply and demand type of economic conversation. It's just the world
The inflation
that we live in right now.
The inflation of existing homes is way faster right now than
there's a lot of
builds.
There's a lot of false value due to lack of inventory.
Yeah.
So the reason our new construction has picked up is because, again, everyone's they've exhausted all their efforts. We've been looking for 6 months. We're done. We can't find what we want. Okay, well, let's have another conversation.
Sure.
Why don't we spend the extra $25,000 and let's just build exactly what you want? You guys can pick the lot that you want.
Right.
And the school, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
I would definitely say don't discount it. Now, when I get the phone calls from consumers that say, hey, listen, we're buying our first house, and we've agreed we want to build. Great. What are you guys looking to spend? $115,000. And, of course, we can't build for nobody.
those mini houses,
Build
right?
a shed.
Yeah, you're not buying you're not going to build a house for $115,000 unless there's 4 tires underneath it.
Right.
So again, to keep things into perspective, $175 I would say it'd be a pretty safe threshold for the beginning of what you could potentially build a house for. And again, it's not going to be bells and whistles, but it'll be a new house. And then, of course, the sky's the limit from there, depending on your selections, right? If you want those linoleum floors, or if you want that travertine tile that Jason has throughout his house, his palace. Yeah, Jason's really big on travertine.
I've also got it in my Malibu.
What, travertine? Mm-hmm. It's great. He's able to, it sweeps his back hair.
I'm going to have to look that up now. Travertine.
Yeah, travertine.
I don't even know what travertine is.
You know what back hair is.
Yes, I do.
All right, well, guys, thanks for your questions.
That was not rapid fire, by the way.
That was quicker than the first one.
Yeah, thanks for your questions, guys. Keep them coming. We'll keep answering them to the best of Jason's ability.
Yeah.
ATBTerraTeam.com, and click on the Real Estate Show tab. We can find us there and subscribe there. All right, thanks for listening.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, happy 4th, guys.
Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Show. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. If you're looking to sell or buy, talk to the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. Visit AnthonyButeraTeam.com.